Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. So welcome back to this week's Pro Academy's property knowledge sharing sections. So today we want to talk about. So now we already come to episode 52. So it's like already a year. So today we're going to talk about gains from transit-oriented development (TOD). So I believe some of you might heard before what is TOD, and some maybe it's their first time to heard what's TOD actually. Okay, so eventually, I think if you heard of TOD, mainly this is development whereby is a public transportations connected to it, mainly refer to railway stations like airports, subways, and light rails and other rail transport stations and bus lines. Okay, then of course with the radius about 400 to 800 meters, it takes about 10 minutes. So that is the center square or city center is established. Okay, whereby I think you can see that some of the project in KL currently I think they have these kinds of elements. Especially I think the latest one will be TRX. If you heard, if you know about it. So today we are very honored actually to invite our one of a senior negotiator, okay, CK, to come and share with us his topics on these gains from transit-oriented development. Welcome, CK. Hello.
Hi, Jason. Thank you for welcoming me back. Well, what do you call it? Now we are episode 52 already, yeah? Exactly 1 year. So exactly
Yes,
one
yes,
year ago,
yes.
we started doing all of this lah. So moving forward, today's, as per Jason's introduction, we will talk about transit-oriented development lah, and a little bit of how it came about, how it's affecting Malaysians, and what you can expect to see out of it. Okay, so moving straight
Okay,
into it.
okay. Before we share the screen, I think first of all, I would like
Oh
to
yeah,
ask to have a request to all of you who, if you like these episodes, please help us to share it out so that more and more people can benefit on this. So welcome to learn together with us. Okay, now back to you, Chicken.
okay, thanks a lot, Jason. So back to me, back on to the topic of transit-oriented development. Okay, so TOD, it's a very huge buzzword right now that we're hearing everywhere we go. Moving into it, a little bit about myself. If it's we've been doing this for 1 year now. If it's the first time you are hearing me, I am one of the few speakers who speak every Thursday. I have been in this for I've been in real estate since December 2019. I am a keen student of it, and I am also a practicing real estate negotiator lah. Okay, so straight to the topic of TOD. What is transit-oriented development? By definition, TOD is a type of urban development, what do you call it? Basically, a type of development planning to best maximize the use of a plot of land. Okay, by textbook definition, it's just transit-oriented development is a type of urban development that maximizes the amount of residential, business, and leisure space within walking distance of public transportation. All right. Now, every country will have their own different standards. Every country will have their own different amount of size of how they want to use and plan their plot of land. But the idea in general is basically how to maximize, the usage of a plot of land using public transportation. Next thing is public transportation, depending on your country and your country or your government standards, may also be different. In Malaysia right now, what we are seeing a lot of, and we'll talk a lot about, is rail transportation. So trains. We have multiple suppliers or multiple brands to pick from. Like we have one of the oldest is KTM, which is Kereta Tanah Api Malaysia, which we are slowly integrating or building around or building into. We stopped building into, but then we are slowly building around all of the available KTM stations. Transit-oriented development might not have been the part of the urban development's plan to begin with, but it could be slowly incorporated into later on. So in case of Malaysia, we started by slowly incorporating ourselves to use KTM as a main hub more frequently. Then in the 90s, we started development of the light rail transit system. In the 2000s, we started with we had another rail supplier called MRT, and also the monorail system in the KL City Centre area, and in the PJ Sunway area we have the BRT. Okay, so in Malaysia it's very rail centric, but then in certain other countries it could also be bus related. We also have free bus services available through Rapid KL and also paid bus services, but it is not such a big part of our transit development orientation yet, but it will, I mean, it's slowly getting into it. These systems have been available in Malaysia forever, in a way now, for the longest time, but we are slowly trying to make more use of it and make it to become a more efficient, form of public transportation in Malaysia. For today's topic, I'll talk mostly about rail, okay, because it's a more common one. In more developed countries or countries which had much more development that involve public transit, not just buses, not just train, trams, and rail, but also public bicycles have been involved and included into TOD. Ride-sharing electric vehicles are also a part of it. They have been incorporated into the whole transit-oriented form of development, all right, when it comes to town planning. So the whole end goal of TOD is, I want to use this takeaway phrase by the mayor of Bogota, Colombia. I don't remember, I mean, I've seen this many times. I don't remember when he said it. It's quite a famous phrase. It's basically the idea of having more of these transit-oriented developments is to, not have the place where a country has more cars, but instead where to enrich ourselves, instead of getting more cars, why not, instead of enriching ourselves, we use more public transportation. Okay, I'll get later on, I'll get into why and how this came about. All right, so moving forward, what is TOD? If you are a general Malaysian, real estate agent like myself, or if you're a general Malaysian keen investor, which I deal with every day, what is TOD? TOD has been thrown around recently a lot as a buzzword. Really, like we see a lot of a lot of us real estate agents, whenever we do our presentations to you, especially for upcoming projects, we love to use this phrase TOD because it can be used as a buzzword to try and excite a client, a potential customer, but it is also a buzzword being used by developers to try and spur the market. But there is a lot more to it than just being used as a buzzword. Okay, so for today's discussion, we're going to talk about how can we apply it in Malaysia. Actually, yes, it's already being applied in Malaysia, okay, and it's being further developed, as I've mentioned earlier, about how we use KTM and our multiple rail suppliers in the country. How will it benefit me? I will mostly talk about how it will benefit you financially as a user, as a product of it, and also as let's say if you're an investor that's looking into investing into transit-oriented development projects, and also what to look forward for. Okay, like what should I look out for? It's not just about rail and whatever, it's particular projects lah. All right, so moving forward, TOD. Why did TOD come about? Apart from what I mentioned earlier about it is basically a project, it's basically a development project kind of mentality a town planner has to take in order to plan out a perfect township, to best utilize land and also to best utilize public transportation. The real reason why this TOD thing really came about in the past couple of years, why it's become such a popular idea and mindset to adopt for Malaysians in the past couple of years is because of basically traffic. This is also one of the same reasons throughout the entire world. It is basically traffic and how to best use land and cars and parking spaces. Give you an example of when I used to work and travel to KLCC area pavilion to work every day back when I first started out with Jason. It would take me about, it says here 24 minutes, but then usually it's more like 30 plus minutes for me to get out of my house here in PJ to get to my parking area in 𝗙𝗏𝗏 Plaza before I take that next, before I take that next 5-minute walk between 𝗙𝗏𝗏 Plaza's parking area to our old office next to Pavilion in the KL City Centre area. Okay, so in total, my travel time alone every day, just driving, focusing on the road, I try to at least, focusing on the road, mostly keeping my hands on the steering wheel and driving, would be plus minus give or take, because these are during peak hours, including all my errands in between, it will be between 1.5 hours of driving per day alone. Okay, just back and forth to work, and also everything else in between. So it could be to pump petrol, it could be to run some small errands, or in everything else in between averages out 1.5 hours. The remaining time, the rest of the day, is either spent parked at home, which is the majority of the time, or spent my car will be spent parked outside in 𝗙𝗏𝗏 Plaza's parking space. It could be Pavilion's parking space, depending which one is available on the day and which one is near to me at a point of appointment or whatever not lah. Okay, so a lot of our transit time is spent. A lot of our main mode of transportation in these transits are spent parked or stuck in a traffic jam. All right. So what early developers and town planners came along with was, why not we provide a better use of this time for our people at the time of the, if it's the town planner is a government person, will be our people, or if a town planner is private entity, our customers, why don't we try to provide them with a better use of their time during these forms of transit now? Because a lot of the time, our main mode of transit is already not in use, and the other times it will be us stuck behind the wheel. Unless we are the passenger, then we are usually focused on driving. Okay, so just to give you a rough calculation, this is about how to use time. Just to give you a rough calculation of it on, if I put it into financial figures, let's say I am a user of the most popular vehicle in Malaysia, which is a 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. This is my monthly cost alone for just back and forth to work. That's it. Back and forth from my house to the office. This is parking 5 days a week, 4 weeks, $10 a day. Fuel, if I drive every day, I usually fill up once a week, and also installments. So just back and forth to work every day for an average Malaysian, if they were taking the same route as me, would be about almost $1,200 on its own. Just spent, that cost is spent purely in that department, including car installment. Let's say, if we just put in all the figures, including car installment, everything is $1,200. Okay, so what brought up the idea of having a more transit-oriented development is to also, number one, help save the cost of most transit users daily, who are using their own private vehicles. In Malaysia, it's like a luxury, but then have we also thought that we could be saving our money if we put away with these luxuries? When I was working in KL, of course, there were also times where I used public transportation. Okay, Malaysia in general, KL, PJ, Klang Valley in general is not a very transit-oriented development piece. but we are slowly getting there. We're slowly integrating. So what if instead every month I went this direction? I still kept my car, okay, but I woke up slightly earlier. There's literally a bus station right outside my house where I can pick up the free feeder bus to 𝗙𝗏𝗃𝗃 MRT station. I mean LRT station. They are spaced about 400 meters apart, between 400 to 500 meters apart. I know to the next bus stop lah. Okay, for in my housing estate. So what if I took that free feeder bus every day, every morning? I just needed to wake up slightly earlier, get to the LRT station. Just because I woke up slightly earlier, I could go get my breakfast there. I can go grab my food there, and I can eat on the train along the way or whatever. Same amount of time actually. It's about 30 minutes journey, give or take. But instead of paying for 4 weeks of fuel for the month, because I do not use the car as much, I might still use it on the weekends or at night. I cut down on my fuel bill. And instead of paying for $10 parking flat, I pay for my only form of transportation, which is the rail, which is $4.40 per day, back and forth between 𝗙𝗏𝗃𝗃 to Bukit Bintang, and I just use the free bus back. On occasions, I do that. If I want to be a bit faster, if the bus is not there, I might take a cab. It's just $4. But if not, if let's say I stick with the disciplined routine of using full public transportation, it's free. I save in total every month almost $200. I mean, over $200 difference. Yeah? You see that 1174 over here, 918.50 spent only. That 200 extra ringgit can be put to better use elsewhere, and a lot of it came from just burning fuel and also to parking alone lah. All right. So to give you, apart from all the other reasons that every other government and also every other developer comes up with to push the transit-oriented development into their projects, okay, one of the most common factors of why Malaysia is heading into this direction in the Klang Valley is purely due to traffic congestions, lack of parking spaces, and also it helps you save money lah. All right, your money can be better put into other places if you use it properly. Okay, so I kind of talked about it. What if if we go full TOD? So what if we did that? We already reduced the dependency on driving. If I lived even nearer to I'll go into this. If I lived even nearer to a TOD township itself, it allows me to work, play, and live in the same place. I might pick a different job. I don't know. I might not be working with Jason. I might be working whatever office or whatever job or whatever. I might even set up my own thing nearby my own place. Okay, if it is that convenient, I will of course environmentally help improve the environment by reducing my carbon footprint by driving less. Okay, it will be a lot easier for me to access life and all of life's needs if I actually lived in one of these places where it is very transit oriented. So like nearby where I work, if I bought a unit nearby there, it would be much more convenient for me if I did that. Of course, doing all of these spending elsewhere will stimulate the local economy, and eventually, of course, the end goal for us keen investors or real estate agents is of course stimulate our own economy lah. Okay, so getting into the what's of it, like how to make use of it. So TOD development in general, we need land to build on. We need land to work on our ideas on. We need land and offices to run our businesses in. Okay, land is a scarce thing. We are never going to get more of it unless we go and colonize another planet or something. But as long as we are in Malaysia, on planet Earth, we are going to run out of it. We can reclaim as much land as we want from the sea, but then the important places where we are doing what we do every day, we're going to run out of it eventually. It's a finite resource. So we have to deal with one thing, that is density. Okay? As we carry on, as we move forward in life, one thing that we have to accept is that the density of residential buildings are going to go up, the density of a township is going to go up, the density of offices are going to go up. So how to best make use of it? Basically, the entire idea behind this, apart from just having ease of transit, so rail, better use of vehicles, better use of motor vehicles, rail, and also better use of cycling lanes and whatever not. In Malaysia, we have not applied this too much, but then if you are around KL city center area, you start to see a lot of people start using electric scooters, which are quite cool. Not really of much use to me. It was a good toy for me when I was a kid, but I didn't even get electric back then. But electric scooters are being slowly integrated into our transit system. At least it's being tried. Whether successful or not, I do not know yet. We might be too early to see any results, but these are some of the ideas behind it. Okay, but on top of all of these forms of public transportation available, what's most important about transit-oriented development is not just providing the perfect roads for it. Okay, it's also providing the perfect environment, because again, land is scarce, density is going to go up. So how do we stimulate the local and also personal economies? It is to make use of the development, basically the houses, the offices, the property space in there, to best maximize best maximize a resident or a user's amount of time spent there. So if you realize a lot of transit-oriented development-based projects, a lot of them are all mostly what we in Malaysia would call mixed developments, okay, whereby you will have residential surrounding the main business hub area, commercial hub, and then of course in between is the commercial hub, and the idea of it is to provide ease of access from residential to the commercial area. Okay, so that is how this whole thing is used to plan to stimulate the economy, on top of providing better access, ease of access, savings, and all that. Use your savings elsewhere, make life in general better as a whole. Sounds very socialistic, sounds very positive, and also very perfect world. It is slowly working, and it will work in Malaysia, hopefully. And we have seen these forms of success available overseas. Okay, just look next door to our neighbors in Singapore. Singapore has its own circular train line, and look how well they are doing. Of course, they are a small city-state country, so it's very easy to control. But key point is, look at how well they are doing at that size, how well the Malaysian ringgit is. How strong the Singapore dollar is compared to the Malaysian ringgit. A lot of it stems from a lot of these forms of development and ease of access for for their citizens to move around and conduct their business. Okay, so I've talked about rail, I've talked about buses, and also bicycles. Also certain countries and certain places, it depends on your geography as well. The nearest one I can think about right now is the city of Sydney. Sydney has a huge plot of the sea in between itself. All right, there's a huge river that runs out to the sea in the Sea of Sydney. One form of transit that Sydney uses is also using. One form of public transit that Sydney people use is also the Sydney Ferry, okay, where you go and to and fro in your gap. Again, like I mentioned earlier, what entails a transit-oriented development depends on your own government's size, like what size, how large should your development be, depends on your own government's point of view. So in terms of Sydney, from residential to offices, instead of a train or bus, it could be an entire ferry ride. I don't remember exactly how large the distance is, but this is just one of the examples of transit-oriented developments around the world. Okay, so in Malaysia's case, like I spoke about earlier, what we're very used to is currently trains, starting out with scooters, and also that's about it right now. But what I've talked about a lot is things that are already completed and things that we have integrated into our forms of development. Because Bukit Bintang, where I used to work at, has been there for over 50 years. KL City Centre, KL City itself has been there for over 100 years. My own place where I live, Petaling Jaya, we have been here since the 1950s, so about 70 years now. Okay, so a lot of these forms of transit came a lot later into the town's development. Okay, because again, transit-oriented development, it evolves according to according to the times also. All right, it adapts along with the time. Back then, what we really needed was roads and for transporting goods from Port Klang all the way to KL City Centre. Right now, we use trains. We do not do that much trading in KL City Centre as much anymore, but we still use it as an office space. So, instead of moving goods, now we have to figure out how's the best way to move people. That's how the more pedestrian train came along instead of the the traditional rail trains. So transit-oriented development will also change according to the needs of the time. All right, that's one thing. And so now that I've given you all the examples I will talk about in Malaysia on I've talked about how to stimulate local economy and a little bit of how to stimulate your own economy. Now I will get to the point on actual stimulating your own economy through property, through real estate agents like us. Okay, so how to stimulate your own economy? I'm going to give you for today's example, I'm going to give you an example on Pavilion, because I think it's a very good example of transit-oriented development. It is also what I talked about of where I used to work at next door. And if I were to actually live there, how convenient it would be. Now, if I were to have made a purchase of Pavilion back in the early 2000s, before it completed in 2009, its launch price for each unit, this is for Pavilion residences, was about 900 ringgit per square foot. Okay, so if I were to buy into it, live in it, and now that I no longer work there, sell it off, this is how it would have affected. This is how it would have affected my own personal economy. Okay, if I were to make a purchase of any unit over there at that time's launch price of about 900 ringgit, this is the most recent traded transacted unit in Pavilion, which is last October. This was less than 6 months ago, of 3 million ringgit, or actually what's more important, 1,227 ringgit per square foot. So at least, even if I were to buy, okay, this is the biggest unit, so it might not be that easy to move. Not such a good example, but let's say if I go on with the average unit, which the prices were based on, if I went with an average unit, 700 odd square foot, just for myself, I would have made a profit of over 2,500 ringgit on my purchase, if I were to have the foresight to purchase a piece of property there in Pavilion, which is so convenient because it has the MRT and also it's nearby my office. And also basically I can eat, I can shop, I remember there's doctors, there are definitely dentists, there are definitely for medical goods, there are definitely medical centers nearby me which I could use, and I could do everything within the township if I had the foresight and I spent that money back then. But back then I was still a student, so I do not know anything. I only picked up property properly studied property about 3 years ago. So now I regret. But if I had the finances and I had the budget, I could still go into investing in Pavilion and moving my place of residences there. Okay, so it is not beyond all because for every keen seller, there's always going to be a keen buyer out there who's interested in it because of the benefits that it will provide to you. Next thing is, like I've mentioned before in my previous talks from, I can't remember exactly which particular week. Inflation prices are always going to go up anyways. Just like land availability, density is going to go up. Land availability is going to go down. Prices are also always going to go up due to things like inflation. Okay, so I have to accept the fact that prices have already gone up. I can still look into it, but like let's say if I am a keen investor and Pavilion is not the place of interest that I want to be at, my place of interest is somewhere else. Where else can I look at around the Klang Valley that has transit or that the entire township has transit and also all of these benefits included into the development plan. Okay, one very big example that I've spoken about before is also Mid-Valley. It is a completed piece. There are a couple of residences over there, and of course, everything else you need for shopping, for office, for work, for entertainment, and also for housing your guests in hotels are available there in Mid-Valley. Same thing in Petaling Jaya would be Bandar Utama. A little bit on the other side of KL in Brickfields area would be KL Central. Okay, and a little bit further out that is being developed right now with transit in mind, with that same plan in mind, is KL Metropolis lah. Okay, so if you have missed out on past projects and you're not that keen on purchasing sub-sale because of the high cost, one of the developments which if you have listened to past classes or past talks from my colleagues would be KL Metropolis. KL Metropolis is a very, I think my colleague Walter has spoken a lot about it. KL Metropolis is a very happening, it's not happening, but it's a very new upcoming township. It is actually next to Mont Kiara. It will be built on what used to be land called Sekambut and also Dutamas. And also, what's more important about it is the train lines and also the roads will be built to focus on to maximize the usage of the land around there lah. Okay, so apart from the regular offices, residences, and also hotels that will be available in the KL Metropolis area, what's most important about this township that is upcoming is also, of course, it has the largest, used to be the largest in Southeast Asia, but it's now the third largest convention center in Southeast Asia. It is 4 times as large as KLCC's convention center itself. Okay, and KLCC's convention center is huge. This is even bigger. So it has MyTech over there, which is the largest convention center, and everything is very nearby to each other. Everything that you need. It is literally a township built from scratch because it used to be an empty plot of land, right? And it will have offices, hotels. This is going to be a medical center. If I remembered one of Walter's talks, there are the MRT station will be right here, and if you want to go further down, there will be Publica and all the amenities that you really need to do everyday living in Malaysia, all within this township itself. Okay, so if you've missed out on these examples that I've talked about due to budget constraints or due to lack of mostly due to budget constraints, because if you're a student like me looking at Pavilion back then, I don't have the money at all to make the purchase. If I come along a suitable subsale piece, I might go into it. But if I want to maximize my financial gains, I might want to look into a project like whatever's available in KL Metropolis instead. All right. So going forward, these are just some of the examples that are available now. There might be more in the future that we could that will come along. There is one that we should take note of, which is called Bandar Malaysia. It is going to be built on the old 𝗙𝗿𝗶𝘀 Airport in 𝗙𝗿𝗶𝘀 itself. Yeah, it's going to be built on the old 𝗙𝗿𝗶𝘀 Airport in 𝗙𝗿𝗶𝘀, and it will be called Bandar Malaysia, that project. It is also a very large development piece with two planned rail stations in between it. Okay, so it's built on an old airport, so you'll know that it's a long straight runway lah. So it will perfectly fit this illustration of having the railway in between with residences and offices by the side. Okay, and then that's just an example, but in general there will be a lot more other, if like let's say there are other projects or other townships within your scope of view, if you're already looking at it, that you might not be unsure whether or not it's a genuine transit-oriented development. In Malaysia, the general guideline for a full transit-oriented development is all forms of property or real estate that's between 400 meters of the main transit line. So in our case, our main MRT line would be categorized under TOD lah. Okay, if you further extend beyond that, in Malaysia, our main is rail. If you further extend beyond that, if there are good bus routes going by there, then yeah, it will be considered a form of transit-oriented development project. So if there are other projects which you are looking at which are outside of this scope, and also if your budget does not fit within our shared development, what can you look forward to else next by using this guideline? One good guideline that we can look forward to, and one of the reasons behind why I wanted to talk about this topic this week, is MRT3. This is going to be the next upcoming next upcoming rail line in Malaysia, and I can assure you there will be development along whatever or wherever these rail lines will be. Okay, so whenever the actual rail line is going to be announced, and if you want to maximize your finances, to make the most out of your finances, to maximize your finances, you've missed the train, no pun intended, on KL Metropolis, okay, and you think your budget will come, you have available funds coming along in the next 2 to 3 years, suggest look at whatever that will be coming along the MRT3's rail line. All right, so that is my sharing for tonight on how to best use it, on how it can benefit you, and also on what to look out for in future or at present if you are a keen investor on basically transit-oriented development. I thank you very much for attending tonight's sharing, and I would like to pass this back over to Jason. Right? Thanks a lot. This card, stop sharing. Hey, where's Jason?
Hey.
Oh, okay, Jason.
Yes. Okay, thank you, CK, for this fantastic sharing on this TOD, whereby I think you can know that I think surround Klang Valley, there's few mega projects going on. So please watch out on that. I think that is I think very good opportunity for you all to come in, enter in this market. Okay. Do you have any questions? You can comment in the comments. So please do comment PRO so that you're able to get your ebooks for today's sections. Okay. Any question you want to ask? Okay. If not, we'll call you a day. Thank you for coming, everyone. So stay tuned for next week, same time and same place. So we'll share another topic to you all. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Good night. Bye.